All right. So, welcome tonight. This is our second Q&A for the new Introduction to Officiating Clinic. I'm Paul Shipman. I know a lot of the faces on the call and names, even though I can't see you, but I don't think everybody knows me. So I'll do a brief introduction. I'm from Manitoba. I'm the past Director of Officials for Manitoba. I'm a Master Instructor for Ring at Canada, a Provincial Evaluator, and I've been leading the work group on the clinic review for this work, designing this clinic, as well as the recent changes to the refresher clinic that we had out over the last couple of years, and continuing forward as we continue reviewing our material and changing the pathway a little bit. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not going to do introductions amongst the group tonight, but we're just going to move forward here through some of the material that I prepared and then open for your questions as they come. We will have like an open period at the end for any questions that we have from the floor, but also if you have any questions as I'm speaking, going through things, feel free to speak up or put your hand up and we will engage. If you're on mute right now, maybe consider putting your hand up when you want to ask a question, because you might not remember to unmute yourself and you'll be talking. And if I don't see your face, I won't be able to say, hey, Marco, you're muted, but I see you're trying to ask a question. We're going to begin with territory acknowledgement. This is really important for us to do, or for me to do right now, to make sure that you guys are seeing how we want to perform this in our clinics as we do them. Perform is probably not the right word, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to say behind that, I think. So while we are a proud Canadian organization, we acknowledge that our head office is located on traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Ring at Canada extends our respect to all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people for their valuable contributions to this land. We are committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So tonight I'm going to begin with some clarifications. There's just a few things that have come up as we've been releasing this information that maybe wasn't as clear as it could have been in the initial material, and I just want to cover some things tonight on that. To begin with, this clinic is replacing what was the Level 1 clinic. It is titled the Level 1 Introduction to Officiating Clinic, and it represents kind of the first step in what I recently called the Stage 0 Introduction to Officiating pathway. This slide that I'm showing you tonight right now, I'm going to say out loud, is not approved. It hasn't gone past other eyes other than my own right now. It's just kind of representing this component of my vision of what the future development pathway looks like from an instruction perspective. So what you're seeing right now is a timeline of the first 30 games of a new official, starting at 0 games, which is what we're here to talk about tonight, how they get introduced to officiating through the Rule Fundamentals module, which is primarily a teaching video right now, and the Introduction to Officiating seminar, which is what we are going to be talking tonight about how we're going to facilitate those sessions, either in person or online, prior to someone attending their first game and performing on the ice. I have an expectation that across this country, somewhere within the first 1 to 10 games, we're seeing 3 supported practice hours happen. In a lot of communities, that represents itself as the mentorship idea, where there's a shadow on the ice that they're working with. We are working on some material that we will release probably next year, if it all goes well, that's going to document that mentoring process, but also show some new and different ways that we can have supported practice hours where these new officials are getting experience and getting supported experience to help them be successful as they move through their pathway here. Then we'll see that there's kind of, I'm not going to say an expectation, but I guess it's a recommendation that we see a first evaluation for those officials no sooner than, after their 20th game. Let's let those people have some time on the ice developing their skills before we're looking at them, and kind of the understanding that most likely they're going to be in a position with their performance at that point where their first evaluation might be limited to feedback and not ranking. That's not a requirement. I'm not saying that's definitely what's going to happen. I'm not saying that anything is changing with the evaluation program. That's just me stating that in the 0 to 30 game pathway, which probably represents the first year for most officials, that's what the general experience is probably going to look like. What's important here is that last bullet on this slide, which is the transition to stage 1. I put that here so that you know that we are thinking ahead to say that what was the level 1 refresher is going to go away, because the level 1 refresher was effectively the level 1 clinic all over again. And we are introducing new material that helps support those officials move into the next stage and teaches them more information to help them actually achieve level 1 in a capacity way that where they are achieving most of the skills identified in the LTOD matrix, which may or may not be fully public yet. I'm not actually sure. Kelsey, is it out?
It's in final draft with the work group.
Okay.
So that's where it's at. And then it will be translated and posted on our website. And pretty much everyone who's been receiving the emails about this communication will also receive that. Great. And just an extra note is we're also looking at doing a webinar this fall to help review it, just for an education piece, so people can understand the great work that all the leads of all the different groups have done on it.
Yeah. So I think that part of the conversation will make a lot more sense when you get an opportunity to see that. Just know that that's all coming. That tonight we're talking about that introduction piece. We're talking about what that means for this year. Ongoing work is being done to prepare for that next step that happens next year. So there's a component of these clinics that is on ice. That is not new, but I want to flag it because the way that we are managing that on ice clinic is different than it used to be. And one thing that we got asked a question about that showed me that we weren't clear enough about how to make this work is that you do need to slot time in your seminar to make sure that your students get the opportunity to prepare their exercises before they go on ice. There is no slide in the seminar to, cue you that you need to do this. And mostly that is because the placement of that on ice seminar varies from clinic to clinic. There are some provinces who might only be able to slot the ice at the very beginning. There are some provinces who will be slotting it right in the middle. There's provinces like mine where I'm going to teach 2 clinics, and those people aren't going to go on the ice for another week. Like the ice time is a week later, and all of the people from both clinics are coming to that ice time, right? So the reason it's not in the seminar is because it's variable, and every instructor is going to have to figure out where to fit it in. And I am open to feedback about where we think how I can better record the fact that that needs to be done in the material so that everybody understands that. But this is going out as a recorded video, and hopefully instructors will watch it and get that information. Any questions about that? This is an example of one of those on ice exercises in case you haven't looked at them yet. The idea here with the on ice exercises is that we want the students to do a little bit of research inside of like 10 to 15 minutes to figure out how to work this out so that they can go on the ice and demonstrate how it's done to all of the other students. Once they've demonstrated, we expect all of the other students to go through the motions of doing the same exercise, with the students who are leading the exercise being the ones giving those students feedback. You are there as the facilitator, and you do still have a role. We do want to make sure that the right information is given to the students. So we will need to step in if the students demonstrating are providing incorrect information, either through their demonstration or through their detection and correction to the other students. But ideally, we want them to do most of the work. We have another role in some of these exercises, so please make sure that you read all the exercises to understand what your part in the play is. In the case of this goal with free pass award setup, the instructor is the goal scorer. So our expectation here with this example is that the 2 students working together to design this exercise are going to set up in net position and free play line position. You as the instructor are going to score a goal. The net official is going to blow their whistle and signal. They're going to get the ring and go to center ice. free play line official is going to go and report some fake numbers to the box. They're going to set up for the free pass at center, and that's the end of the whole section. I just want to point out the last 2 pages of the facilitator manual, the on-ice facilitator manual, can be printed by you, and these exercises can be cut out and handed to the students if that's what you want to do, so that they can kind of write their process on the back, bring it out to the ice and do it. These exercises also exist in their manual, so you can call on them to use their new official manual to find those exercises, and they have full pages there, which, I mean, you could also choose to print out if you wanted. And then they could fill in all of these additional things. So there's kind of some additional supporting stuff for them in those printouts that say, okay, as a student, figure out what your starting positions are. What will you do if the ring goes in the net? You can write under there, that kind of thing, and move forward. Yeah. Bruce.
Thank you. So I just want to say on record, because it's being recorded, what I said off record, which was I'm really impressed with all the work that's gone into redoing this clinic. I think it's really, really well done. So you answered the question that I sent in around when, there didn't seem to be a spot in the presentation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get that now, and it makes perfect sense. In my case, in a week and a half, we have a clinic and we have an ice time immediately after. So I can work with that, and I can slot that in. My question that I didn't send in, that just triggered me as you were doing this,
Sure.
is working in pairs. So would we get so let's say we've got 18 people in the clinic. Would we have 9 pairs and each doing that exercise? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's so.
Okay.
So what the idea is that each pair will be given their own exercise. So there are 8 defined exercises.
Right.
In the case of having 18 students, 2 pairs will do the same exercise.
Right.
And in the on-ice facilitator guide, it suggests which one you should choose.
Right.
If you have to repeat, because they can be done on separate sides of the ice at the same time. Half of the students on either side, and just cycle through them.
Right.
And there's also instructions in that guide about if you end up with an odd number, how to manage that as well.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. I want to make a comment tonight about one of the things that we talk about in our manual, that being allowing mistakes. Most of the work as we move into this facilitated education world is all about letting students discover things for themselves, and us being the guide to lead them to the right answer, but not hand it to them. So we do say that one of the things we want to do is allow mistakes, and we do, but we also don't want to just let people get things wrong. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about using leading language when we're doing the floater job, right? And when we are floating as a facilitator, that means we're spending a little bit of time with each breakout group, not inserting ourselves, but paying attention and listening and being available to answer questions when they have. But we might also want to interject sometimes with leading comments like, is that really what the manual says you would do in that situation? Or if you guys were to read this mechanic in the rule book, would that jive with what you're thinking you're going to do in this situation? That can cue the students to let them know that they're a little bit off course. It can help to introduce them to resources that they're not familiar with yet, right? These are new officials. They've never read the rule book. They don't know yet that there's a mechanics section, but a comment like that with a little quick introduction to here's the mechanic that you can read lets them know that those things are documented and where they are. And then they can take the time to read it and hopefully get the right answer out of that. They might not, and that's okay, but at least they've taken the step to learn that other piece of, oh, there is a place that is. My instructor showed me where it was. It's here at the back of the book, and I just need to read it to understand. At the end of the day, with all of these exercises, the job of the facilitator is to make sure that everybody does know the right answer, but that shouldn't happen during the exercise. That should happen during the debrief when the students are explaining what they've done. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Okay. Oh, didn't mean to do that. always does that when I do that. So this is something I will be calling attention to a little later, but while it's on the screen here, I'll have you know, today I did some work changing some of the material that we've already released. I have inserted a video clip on every exercise slide that has the appropriate countdown as per the facilitator manual. So this is an exercise that we are to give the students 5 minutes to work on. So we have a 5-minute countdown clock on that slide. There's 3-minute clocks, there's 7-minute clocks, but those are scattered throughout the slideshow now so that you can better manage the time in the clinic as you need. I didn't cover this in the earlier session, so this is one of the reasons why we're recording tonight. It kind of came up in a conversation afterward. I did want to highlight the fact that there is still an exam, but there are changes to the exam. The things that you really need to know about the exam are it only tests clinic content. So covering the material in the clinic is what you want to do because it's going to cover off the questions in the exam that are supposed to come from clinic, but not all of the questions come from the seminar. Some of the questions come from the rule fundamentals piece, and some will come from the on-ice piece, right? So it's inclusive of all of the components in the clinic. The other thing to know is that we don't want failure to be permanent here. What that means is that we still have a 60% threshold, but failing to reach that 60% threshold is not a fail of the clinic. They can continue to redo the exam over and over and over again until they achieve a 60% score or better. So it's not an end to their clinic and officiating career. It's just a road bump where they need to review their material again and do the exam again until they achieve a threshold score. Okay, so here are some questions that came in. Oh, Michelle, it looks like you have a question.
I have a question. Would there be a time limit as to how many times they can redo the exam to get?
No. No.
Oh, it could take them like a month.
Yeah. Yeah, they aren't certified until they pass. And I mean, personally, so this is part of my philosophy, but anyone who takes the time to learn it and get it right has learned what we need them to learn to know to go out there, right? I don't see any reason to hold somebody back because it took them extra time to get there. So that's what we want to see there.
So looking at the logistics, how would we know if somebody has not passed their exam and not ready to be assigned?
So I suppose you wouldn't personally, but your province should. Your province should always have had that ability because they always should have been able to know if someone hadn't passed before to tell you that they weren't certified. The difference here is that if you don't pass, you can try again. Whereas before, if you didn't pass and you weren't certified.
So then that information, I guess, would go to the director?
Well, it's unlikely, I would say, that it goes to the director. It probably goes to your technical director or program coordinator or similar. Kelsey looks like he's about to answer for me, but I will just say that it is in the admin side of officiatingringette.ca. So the person in your province who has that access is the one who would be able to see it. Did you want to add anything different, Kelsey?
I was just going to confirm anyone with admin access. So it depends on the province who has that access. But your first start is always to contact the provincial office and or your director of officials. But I know at least one person in every provincial office has access to it. And then from their direction, they will direct me at Ringette Canada who else within their province should have admin access. And again, you would usually be only your director official if the province has one, because not all provinces have one.
So I will just reiterate that the pass-fail aspect of this in terms of certification has not changed from how it was before. The only change is that you have the opportunity to change the fact that you failed if you fail. So one of the questions that we were asked is, how new is this clinic? This clinic has not yet been delivered. We are releasing all of this information now for the first time. It was everything that has been designed at this point was effectively completed by July 31st in order to go out for translation. There's been some additional graphic design work and video work that I've been doing in the interim time to get us where we are. The first clinic will be delivered on October 1st, unless someone steps up with a new clinic date in the next week or so. Will there be enough time to do this clinic in the time. So I did the math today again on what we've identified the time slot being for every slide. And when you include the 10 to 15 minutes that you need to have your students prepare for their ice time, the total duration of the clinic at this point is 2 hours and 40 minutes. Most provinces will be slotting 3 hours for the seminar, maybe 3.5. So even with break time, you should have enough slush to be able to fit everything in. There is an additional hour. Well, I say an hour, but it's an ice slot. There's an additional ice slot to do your ice period that's not included in that 2 hours and 40 minutes. I think on average, that's probably going to work out to be an hour, but some provinces are going to have an hour and 15-minute time slot. Some might have a 50-minute time slot. The actual amount of time designated to the on ice, I think, is 45 or 50 minutes. So everyone should be able to complete the on ice during that time. In order to make sure that you fit in the time, it is important that we time our breakouts. We need to complete our breakouts in the time specified for them. And now that they include that timer on every slide, that should make it easier to do. I don't remember at the earlier session if this is where I said this or not, but I'm going to say it here now. The breakouts are important, but the breakouts are about learning decision-making processes and a little bit about answers. It is okay for us to cut them short if everyone hasn't completed their conversations yet. We're going through that work of learning, who had the ring and why did I actually stop play and who did the ring go to? We're starting to teach those students to think those steps through and have those conversations in that way. If we don't get all the way to the end of the conversation, that's okay. There's another clinic coming next year that all of these officials are going to be asked to do that's going to look at some of those things again to make sure that they have remembered them and learned them fully. And the other piece of all of this that I put in the other webinar that you might have already watched is the idea that all of this information persists. They have a manual that they can refer to at any time. A lot of this stuff is covered in videos that they can watch again at any time. So we're trying to make sure that that material is available to them when they need it. I'm a big proponent of just-in-time information, and I think that our current program lacks that in a lot of ways. Marco.
So to summarize, the individuals would have to do the pre-clinic, which is now the
Rule
video
fundamentals, yep.
Right? So
Yep.
that video, that's what, 25 minutes long?
I think it's 28.
28 minutes long.
Yeah.
Then come to a seminar.
Yep.
2 hours or 3 hours, let's say.
Yep.
And then the 1 hour ice time.
Yeah.
So the commitment is there for, let's say, 4.5 hours, but spread out over 3 different
Yeah.
areas. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's effectively the same time commitment that the old level 1 clinic was. Between the pre-clinic component, the seminar, and the on ice, it's about the same amount of time.
Perfect. Thanks.
No, I don't know if any others had that same question, but it's one of the questions I sent you about the time. So that's good. I really like the addition of the countdown clock. I think that's going to be helpful. I think in my case, it'll be up to us to manage, because we've got a large group, to manage that time appropriately. So I've already started. So for example, I got a list of all of the attendees today. So I think I might make up some groups beforehand just so that we don't have to waste time doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really good point, and it's made me key into the thought. So there is a comment in the facilitator manual that says one of the things you want to do when you're setting up your breakouts, each breakout you want to identify who the spokesperson is going to be yourself before it starts. If you leave it up to the groups to choose their spokespeople, they're probably A, not going to choose them, and B, then there's going to be a rush to figure out who's going to speak when you go to do the debrief. The best course, in my experience, having moderated for 2 years now, is just say, for this breakout, you're going to be the spokesperson, so be prepared at the end of the breakout to deliver your results.
Yeah, great.
We were asked if the positioning video could be made to play on the slides. That was updated today. The only reason it wasn't there in the initial rollout is that when we finished the slideshow, the video wasn't 100% complete yet, and I forgot to put it in. So it's there now. If you are presenting offline, so like if you're in a location that's not going to have a network connection of some kind, it will be necessary to download that stuff. And I don't know how well that works yet. I haven't tested that myself. We are looking at an alternative to YouTube to make the videos more easily downloadable. It will be a few weeks before that's there. So I'm going to say likely for the first sessions that go out, the first clinics that happen, the first seminars, you'll have to download from YouTube or hope that it works. So one thing that I've been recommending, and I recommended in the earlier piece, is if everyone knows how to get to the student resource page. So when you're in here, I'll just switch over here for a second.
And Paul, the reason for the download issue is because the files are far too large.
Yes.
To add into Google Drive, Dropbox. So we're looking at a better and easier method to share these very, very large documents, videos with all the individuals that need it. But we have a temporary fix, but we're looking for a better solution. So that's why it's just taken some additional time to decide.
Yeah. I had a conversation after the 5 o'clock session about how to find this information. So this is the facilitator docs portion of officiatingringettes.ca. You're probably all familiar with it. If you click on the online delivery check mark, that's going to bring you to the pathway page for facilitation materials. On this page, there's this section, student resources and videos. That's going to bring you to all the resources that the students have access to. This document is their manual. If you print the first page of the positioning chapter, here, I'll just open it here. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. I could probably find it on my computer. But rules is after positioning. If you print this page and have a copy of it with you at your session, it has this QR code on it. That QR code leads to the positioning video. Any of your students who have a smartphone will be able to point their camera at that, and it will bring their smartphone to the positioning video. So if for whatever reason you are not able to get it up on the projector, everyone can still watch it on their phones where they're sitting, so long as they can get a picture of that QR code. If they have already downloaded the file, they can click this link, either in PDF on their phone, or if they've downloaded the EPUB, which is basically a book on your phone, they'll be able to click the link to go directly to the video as well.
Can I ask another question related to that?
Sure.
Sorry to keep consuming a lot of time here. I seem to be, but I noticed today that on the facilitator's docs page, where you have all the links, there's a link to videos, and you click that link and it only goes directly to the positioning video.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So is that on purpose?
Yes, that's on purpose, because the positioning video is the only video that's required as part of the seminar.
Okay. Gotcha.
The other ones are optional. And I would really only recommend, I think there's only a good reason to use like the net video or the ring video if you're in a situation where you're not going to be able to have an ice time. Our hope is that all provinces will be able to have an ice time, but if there's a scenario where you can't, our hope is that you'll do the exercises using the new rink mats that will be going out and show the pregame duties using those videos. So it's a if necessary only. Those additional videos are mostly made for the students to have access to following the clinic as a reminder if they're at all unsure about how to do those things.
Yeah, okay.
Someone raised a concern that they thought that slide 34 was unclear. It's one of the exercises in the slideshow. The exercise itself is contained within the new official manual, so the manual that the students will have, and it's also contained within the facilitator doc. So it is expected that students will refer to their manual to do this exercise. This is the page that we're talking about. It's page 79 in the printed manual. Otherwise, the students would need to search for penalty exercise number 2 if they're using the e-publication. Basically, what we're asking them to do is fill in this box with check marks for which ones apply to which kind of penalty. I'm realizing now that I probably should have put the slide in here so you knew exactly what the exercise was, but I'll leave that as an exercise for you to do, to find and look at, but it should be pretty clear looking at this table for all of us exactly what people need to do. Okay, so this is just this is the question that came in that led to that clarification at the beginning about making sure you set aside time in your seminar to do the on ice exercise plan. Yeah, so I'm going to skip this because we talked about all those things already. There have been some changes to the material in the last couple days. So if you have downloaded things already, you might want to go and do a refresh. I don't think that lots of people have likely downloaded their permanent files yet, but just to let you know what has changed. So I talked today already about the timers. I talked about the playable video. Someone raised a concern about slide 26, where we use the term zone and should have been using the term restricted area. So that has been updated. There will be forthcoming updates to the facilitator manual and new official manual in relation to that same slide 26, just updating that language. I haven't published them yet just because I didn't know what was going to come out of tonight. And if I was making other changes, I wanted to publish it all at one time. And then I wanted to highlight something that's new as well. I haven't linked it in yet to the student resources, but I will be doing that. We have updated the officiating signals page on officiatingringette.ca. I spent an hour at the end of last season when an ice time got canceled because of COVID. I went out with a referee and we recorded all of the signals in video, and I converted them into animated GIFs. So what that means is on this page, every signal happens. The other thing about this page that's different than the old version is that every signal has been documented. Some of you will know that the signal section of the rulebook does not include all of the signals that we do. Some of the signals are captured only in the mechanics section. For example, pointing to your toe for a toe kick. We have captured those here as well with video and instruction on how to do them properly. For those students who have downloaded this as an e-publication to their phone, this is how the signal section appears on their phone. The GIF actually works in an e-publication, so you see the full animation of it. Whereas in the PDF, if I drop down to the signal section, we don't have animation, so I have broken it out into the separate components of the signal so that the students still get appropriate representation of what those look like. All right, what have I got left here? So just a quick conversation about moving forward. What's upcoming? What are we working on now? So based on this change to this pathway, I think it's the primary focus for this work group this coming year is going to be finalizing that level 1 next steps clinic so that we can continue the work of new official to fully competent level 1. We have a refresher and rule change happening next year. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do a little work on improving how that stuff is delivered. In particular, I want to focus on using more video to teach the rule changes. I have a vision of how that's going to work, but we need to know what the rule changes are before I can figure out if we can do it. We also need, time and resources and people and whatever, but facilitator training is a really big priority for me. We've now released, this is the second set of clinic work that we've released as Ring It Canada that is including facilitated material, and we have not yet devised a program for teaching instructors how to facilitate. So this is part of, what we're doing tonight is kind of one of the ways that we're trying to disseminate that information, but we need to prepare better training for that. So I am hoping that by next season, we will be able to do a proper instructor refresher that will include teaching steps for facilitator training, and that we will be able to build off of that to develop an actual facilitator training course that will be how we get new instructors in the pipeline. And then finally, you saw my pathway vision for this stage 0 pathway at the beginning of the session. I have drawn out 5 other stages at this point that no one really has looked at yet other than me, although I've shared it with a few other people. They haven't had yet a chance to look at it. I think there's going to be long conversations about it because I'm not convinced that everyone's going to see it the same way as me yet. And that's good because I want that collaboration so that we find the best thing for the sport and don't just do stuff because one person wrote it down. But I don't know that that's going to be complete for next year. In all honesty, I don't know what on this page I can guarantee we will definitely have next year, other than the level 1 next steps, because we can't not have it next year, in my opinion. That is the formal part of my piece this evening. I'm going to leave it at that and open the floor to questions and answers and just anything from the floor that you'd like to go over from the material. And I think I will stop sharing my screen so that we can all.
Paul, if you can go back to your last slide, maybe I can add one other piece from a Ringette Canada perspective. It's for the people who are on this, but also for people who may be catching this on a recording. We are planning on having a large meeting, hopefully in person, with all the master instructors, someone from each province, if they don't already have one, as well as some of the people on our different work groups, including this and our evaluation program. And there's a number of changes coming for the 2022-23 season that we'll be releasing this winter, but a lot of positive adjustments and things that we're doing right here. We're trying to get some of this education piece out, including our LTOD matrix and a number of other things this winter, and get everything prepared and ready to go for next spring, next May, so that the provinces can have the opportunity to do potential in-person clinic refresher with all the instructors and everything else, because as everyone who's watching this video, to prepare themselves to be able to instruct the level 1 this fall, we're looking to do the same sort of thing, but again, some of it may be happening in person if we can, with some more timelines. Also, if there's anyone interested either on here or listening to the recorder who's interested in getting involved in Ringette Canada, I may be reviewing some clinic material, offering to help. I want to thank Paul for his leadership in this, with this work group. There's a number of people behind the scenes with Paul as well, but Paul is our lead with this, as we have a couple of other leads in our evaluation and our LTOD matrix. So with Paul, there was also some master instructors, with some people at the provincial staff from a deliverable standpoint that has experience in the officiating portfolio. And then we also have some people who are involved in the mid to late teen and also adult education side of things as well, looking into the content for potentially updated of how we deliver content in the education field. So those are the number of different people who've been involved in the background, but we're always looking for more help. There seems to be quite a few people doing a lot of the work. So if other people are interested, please reach out to myself, Kelsey@ringette.ca, and happy to try to get you involved where we can, and what works for you, for your skill set, but also works for us for our need.
Thanks, Kelsey. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Okay, so at this point, that's my formal part of the evening, and the floor is open to any questions or concerns or thoughts or whatever.
Hi, Paul. First of all, I just wanted to comment on and thank you and the team for the tremendous amount of work that went into creating all this new content material. I think it's leaps and bounds ahead of what we've had as instructors in the past, and will go a long way to make the job a lot easier and more consistent, which I think is just as important. So great job. Thanks. Very innovative work.
Thanks.
My question is there any guidance on whether there's an opportunity to potentially deliver this content virtually? Obviously not the on ice session, but the course material itself, as opposed to in person.
Absolutely. So this has been designed with virtual in mind. So this clinic in full has been designed so that it can be delivered either in person or online. It's designed so that it can work with Ringette Canada's Adobe Connect platform, but not only with Ringette Canada's Adobe Connect platform. I don't think we've loaded any of this stuff into Adobe Connect yet, because we aren't aware of any provinces who want to deliver it virtually using that tool. but it is ready to be delivered online using other software like Google Meet or Zoom or Teams. That's actually why the new officials manual is the way it is, because I know that in Zoom, for example, depending on what level of the platform you have, when you do your breakout groups, you can't necessarily share content through that breakout process. So the content is contained within the new official manual so that they can access those exercises and see the information related to those exercises to allow you to do those breakout sessions and do that work. So yes, my answer is yes, they're ready to go in both. I will also say that if we ended up in a situation similar to our most recent pandemic and we had to do training without on-ice sessions, I think that we are in a position where we could do a lot more of that. We could replace a good portion of the on-ice piece in an online scenario by using the rink diagram, having the students draw out their exercises on the rink diagram, and by including those additional videos that we prepared for pregame duties to show that process and cover most of what we would cover in an on-ice situation. I don't think that our students would come away from that with the same confidence that they would come away with from an actual on-ice session, but we could deliver most of the material and have them learn what we really needed them to learn through that process.
Thank you.
Yep, whatever. Go ahead, Michelle.
So far, there hasn't really been any information or communication on how to use the new electronic game sheet app for from RAMP. So I haven't seen any of that in any of the clinic material.
Sorry, on how to use the what?
The electronic game sheet through the
Oh.
RAMP app.
Okay.
That's been thrown at us out of the blue, and there's been no communication on that. So it's
okay. So
happening in Ontario. I don't know if it's happening in the rest of the province.
Yeah, so that's going to be the thing. So it's not an initiative from us, as far as I'm aware. It's likely local. You would be welcome. So I would say this. So that is an important piece of information to share with your officials because they're going to need to be doing that work. It's something that your province is going to need to design and account for additional time in the clinic to teach or teach via another tool, like maybe doing a Zoom meeting or something like that.
Are any other provinces going this route?
So I would suggest on anything like this that's specific to a local organization, talk with the local. If any province that is doing this, again, using RAMP, I would suggest you talk to your provincial office, no matter where you are in the 9 provincial offices, because different provinces may be doing different things. From a Ring Act Canada standpoint, we have our scoring application. We only use it at nationals, so we would have an education piece for the officials at nationals. But on a local, Michelle, I think you're Ontario, I would contact Ring Act Ontario in your case and ask them what sort of information would they be asking you as an instructor on their behalf, because you're assigned by them, on their behalf, what information they want shared. Because again, we're not doing it nationally. So this is why it's not in our national material to deliver.
So Marco had just asked that question get repeated because Michelle's mic is a little low and not everyone was able to catch it. So Michelle was just asking about RAMP game sheets. So her province, I assume, possibly her association, I don't know, is releasing RAMP game sheets as a requirement for officials to complete after the game. We have no training for that in our material, but so this is one thing that I'm going to say about one of the changes that we introduced to this introduction to officiating pathway. There is a document that we've included called the Welcome and Orientation Guide. It's on the student resources page. It is something that we have not done before as an organization. One of the things I said that I felt we needed to think about with new officials is they are, in their minds, they're starting a new job. And we need to onboard them. We need to be able to give them some information about their role and what their life is going to be like as an official outside of the stuff we usually teach. So we prepared a document, again, the Welcome and Orientation Guide, that covers most of the stuff that's going to be consistent across the country. And there is a final page that says your local association should prepare a page that covers these things for you. We have a letter, an email that I believe went out to the provinces to say, hey, we probably haven't told you yet, but we're releasing this document and it says that you might prepare this for them. That would be a really good place to start in Ontario, to say on Ontario's page, oh, by the way, we use RAMP to do our game sheets, and these are some steps you need to learn. And there's a session you can sign up for, or the province can say, for all of our intro courses, we're gonna add a half an hour and prepare a slideshow on doing RAMP. Other questions?
Michelle, very good question, actually, because that's quite important. And
Agreed.
that would be the same for officiating or other parts of the program as well when a local organization does it. And that reminds me, for those who are listening to the recording, again, you can reach out to myself, kelsey@ringette.ca. I'll try to help direct you to your provincial office. If you let me know where you're calling or emailing from, or if you know them directly, I do suggest that you reach out to them on any questions through this process.
I have a couple of other questions too.
Shoot.
I did, okay. In the preparation section, it was said that there was going to be new rink mats that were going to be available, I guess, for the in-person clinics.
Correct.
How do they differ from the current rink mats that we have?
So the current rink mats have been established by provinces individually. These likely aren't substantially different. They were based off of the ones that Alberta had prepared. Largely, I think, Kelsey, that would be a fair statement, right?
A couple of them include in Alberta. Some were single-sided, some were double-sided.
Yeah. So these ones have been commissioned by Ringette Canada and distributed to the provinces. If you already had ones in your province, you're welcome to continue using them. You don't need to use the Ringette Canada ones, but not every province had them. Ringette Manitoba, for example, did not have rink mats, so that wasn't a teaching tool that we had.
Ringette Canada, Michelle, wanted to make it a standard practice that it's used at this level of clinic, and therefore we actually invested in it ourselves. We purchased 40 rink mats to be shared amongst the 40 of them amongst the country of the 9 provinces. Plus, we have we'll have a couple in our office. A number of those that have already been shipped out to the provincial offices, and they are managing those, and also the replacement of those in the future. So we're upfronting the cost of 40, and then we're expecting them to be used for this, but also heads up, I do expect them to be used for future clinics as well, future potential level 2, 3, and 4, depending on the situation, because they're a great tool. They can be put on the floor, but also there's grommets, so they'd be hung from a wall as well, because some facilities are allowed them to be hung. And please don't fold them. Yeah, roll them up. They're shipped in tubes, so yeah. Paul, there was one email came in. What happens if there's a level 1 clinic on a Tuesday night and there's also another level 1 clinic on a Saturday? Could they join and do the ice time together on a Saturday or a Sunday?
Yes. So as an example, I think I said in the earlier session, I am about to do 2 clinics. The seminars will happen on a weeknight evening. The ice time will be in week 3, and all of the students from both of them will be on the ice. I would caution against having much more than 20 students on the ice at once. So the expectation I have is that each clinic is going to be around 10 students, and then we're going to have them all together. That does give me an opportunity as an instructor to assign those teams and give them homework, right? They have a week to prepare their exercise, and I can eliminate that time from the seminar completely if I want. I'm leaning towards doing that. I think I want to try that out. So yeah, so you know.
Is there going to be a cap or a limit to the number of participants per seminar?
Go ahead, Kelsey.
Yeah, I can answer that one. At this point in time, there is no cap. We are recommending that for proper facilitation of clinics, because it's different than just someone at the front of the room talking for 4-8 hours. It's true facilitation. They should be, we're suggesting, should be capped at 20. Should be capped at 20, but Michelle, if you and I were to co-deliver, co-facilitate, co-instruct, We could have more. It allows for proper facilitation and breakup sessions and that follow up. So again, if you and George did them together in online or in person, that is usually the method. In the future, I do expect there will be caps, but right now for this season, we're not changing anything. The provinces are responsible for delivery, and we've not set a cap. And I did mention something there that this clinic is designed for, most people are going back in person, but there's also an opportunity for online delivery, and Paul and his group have set it up as well, that you could, based on the material, if you've all gone through it already, you can deliver it in an online setting or in an in-person setting. The delivery method is whatever works for the province who's hosting it. But Paul, again, all questions can be directed to the email you've all been receiving from this, for myself, kelsey@ringette.ca. You can also touch base with your provincial office. A number of provinces have director officials. You can go to them directly. Some provinces may not, so everything goes through the office. So it just depends where you are in the country and how things are delivered. But worst case scenario, you can come to myself and I'll help try to get you an answer or send you to the right person for the answer, whether it's Paul and his group or whether it's an operational or delivery question through your provincial office. Well, Paul, I think that is maybe the questions, but on behalf of Ringette Canada, thanks so much for participating. We actually had less scheduled to come in the earlier call, and a number more people showed up. And this call, we probably had double the number who said they'd be here, but some things could have come up. It's different times for different people across the country. But Paul, thanks so much for leading this group and for leading this session, and for everyone else for attending. And Paul, I'll let you finish up with any last comments.
Yeah, I would just kind of echo what Kelsey said. Thanks everyone for being here tonight and taking an interest in making sure that we're delivering this stuff in the best way that we can. This really is a program designed to support these officials through their first year, hopefully with better success than we have in the past. Not to say that we weren't successful, but just that with better success than we have in the past. Yeah.
I'd like to say thank you very much, gentlemen, for all of the work that you've been doing and all the organization and everything that you've done. Without people like you, we wouldn't have this success in the sport, and it's much appreciated what you guys do.
All right, I'm going to end the recording.